Gates Adams here on behalf of Apex Trader Funding, and I'm here today with trader Dustin. Dustin is a repeat offender, so to speak. He's gotten multiple payouts with Apex Trader Funding, and we're here to, for the first time, actually, to talk about your experience. People watching this always have the first question everybody always has. How long have you actually been trading at this point?
So I started trading about 17, like demo accounts. That I'm 28 now, so about 11 years.
So you were 17, not 2017.
No, when I was 17. So it's been 11 years. Just kind of went through all the different markets at this point, right? Crypto back in the day, especially when the first pump of meme coins came around, options trading, common stock holding, but futures was actually something that I really only been trading for about a year.
Okay. So what actually got you into the world of trading in the first place? 17 is younger than average, I would say, from my experience. So how did you find your way into this world?
That was really about the time where like Robinhood and Webull were first like releasing it's like to the public, where a lot of retail investors were kind of getting in and actually having the ability to trade just kind of however they wanted to. And that was just like my kind of little gateway into like, I can make money from my phone. Like, that's cool. And then obviously there's been some hardships and ups and downs and all that kind of stuff through the whole journey. So I think always it's that famous saying, like, trading's plan A, plan B, plan C, all like it's all the plans.
It takes a level of commitment to make it in this business. We know this, and I know a lot of new traders know this from a logical standpoint, but here you are 11 years later. You're now consistently trading. We spoke a little bit before the interview, and you mentioned that this is now all you do. You don't have a day job or a quote unquote day job or anything like that. This is your source of income. It begs the question, 11 years later, there have been some struggles. There have been some ups and downs. Again, we know what this journey looks like. Was it worth it?
I'm a salesperson, like always been in sales my entire life. I had a wake up call recently because I've always been investing as like just a retail worker, right? Just like going to my 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 in my case in some of those jobs, right? Well, I'm married with 2 kids. Like one of my last jobs where I really had the wake up call and where the mental shift for me kind of happened was there was a 2-week period where I didn't see my kids wake up and I didn't see them go to bed.
Ouch.
Then I hear that Jordan Peterson quote, well, they may not remember the years from 1 to 4, but you're the only one that gets to keep those memories. And I'm like, well, I'm not there to make any of those memories. So this was just something that I've seen. If I put in the right amount of work and I be consistent with a plan and a strategy every single time, I can literally never leave my house. I don't have to miss out on anything. Like what I'm working on now, my side business, my kids can come in, they can crawl all over me as long as I'm not in the middle of a trade. Right? I'm like, hey, I got to focus if I'm in the middle of a trade. But other than that, it's I can't even imagine going back to a 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 grind with the availability that I've had to have with my family now.
I love that, man. Now, of course, it's easy in retrospect when you're at the point where you are now. And it's not necessarily, maybe my question wasn't even a fair question. Of course, at this point, it's worth it. But along the way,
was it all worth it?
Well, I mean, do you recall any particularly difficult moments that you experienced on your journey where you're like, I'm out, I'm done. This is just not for me.
I did take about a 1.5 year hiatus before getting back into trading. I actually joined a group for options trading specifically that kind of got me back into it. I was making really good money at the time and I had disposable income, and I was like, because I had a really great stretch of wins during COVID, like with meme coins and all that kind of stuff. Like it was like a lot of people did, and then ended up giving most of that back to the market, just continuing to try to trade and everything like that. So took about a 1.5 year hiatus from trading, and then got in this group, and it just kind of sparked the fire again. And then I found futures trading just shortly after. I mean, and I've never really traded like that. I mean, I watch charts, but I mean, futures moves way different than the stock moves. Learning that whole thing of like, hey, where are the patterns? What's candlesticks and all this kind of stuff, instead of just trying to trade off of news like a lot of people do. And then also having a lot of wake up calls as just an investor that's naive is like, hey, there's things that are at play that, like, if news is already happening, it's already happened actually in the market. It's already been fixed into that stuff. Coming to the conclusion of a lot of those things has really, but I mean, you don't really figure that out until you're really in the thick of it and understanding like, hey, price can move just like that, but with anticipation of things, and then go completely the opposite way. Take NVIDIA earnings yesterday, for instance, positive earnings report, and then we go down 4%.
Yeah, if you're trying to predict, then you're probably in trouble. But if you learn something that's consistently, nothing's ever going to be 100%. And I think as traders, I think we can know this logically, but it really can be more difficult to absorb that emotionally, especially in the moment when it's like, hey, it should have this. It absolutely, if nothing's 100%, you're going to take some losses. One of the biggest struggles that most traders have is how they respond to losses. I mean, is this specific work that you've done, or have you just sort of gradually gotten better at it?
I would say both. I mean, nobody's an expert until they're a beginner. What I figured out from the times that I failed all those evals at the beginning of this thing, again, I had a couple epiphanies, couple wake-up calls of things that I've noticed, and I started turning it into a probability game instead of a pattern game. When I started switching it up to a probability game, you just know that no matter what, you're going to lose sometimes. Every trade is technically 50-50, right? It's either you win or you lose. When you make that the reality of like, okay, well, the only expectation is that it either wins or loses. There's no other expectation. Knowing when to cut your losses, being true to that kind of thing, really helps with the probability side of things. It's like, well, it was 2 weeks ago, I had an 89% winning week. Beautiful success. I was super happy with everything. And then the following week, like 66%. It is what it is. It's a probability game. Every trade's 50-50.
Well, and I love that, because even though you're talking about a disparity between 1 week versus another, the second week, depending on your risk reward, obviously, was still likely a winning week, just not as winning as the week before. And I think that that's the lesson that a lot of times we have to learn the hard way, is that it's okay. You take a few more losses than you're used to, it still can come out in your favor as long as you don't change your decision making or your strategy along the way.
I get reminded of that story of the famous Goldman Sachs trader. He basically had a 95% losing rate, a 5% win rate, but still managed to make $400 million over the course of his career. That just let me know that like it is strictly a probability thing. Like you catch the right trades, you manage the risk the right way, like you're still going to end up profitable. But if you start doing things that are away from strategy or away from probability mindset, and you're just kind of entering trade, like there's some days where I don't get to take a trade because the probability setup that I'm looking for doesn't happen. And that's just something. And so a lot of people will be like, well, I need to trade today, especially when we're doing prop firm challenges and we got to have day requirements, right? So right. I think that's the only little bitty tidbit of things that like, oh, it kind of sucks if you don't get a setup and then you got to wait a whole nother day. But again, when you get to the point where you don't need it, right? A lot of people do a lot of these prop firm challenges when they need money, right? So when you approach it with the need, I think the market knows it a lot of times.
I think somewhere deep down, it's the type of decision you make out of need versus out of a developed discipline.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that really we can say the skill isn't the strategy. The skill is money management. The skill is discipline. The skill is consistency. All of these things, these are the things that come into play. That, as you mentioned, you can have a trader that loses 95% of their trades, but if their wins are big enough, it can be okay. Now, is that the best strategy for everybody? Of course not. Most of us psychologically have a little bit of a struggle when we see that red, but at the end of the day, it's not about the strategy, it's about the way that you execute. At this point, Dustin, seeing the way that you're executing, seeing the way that you're moving into a world where trading is your income, and now you get to do things on the side, because not only do you have a stable income as a trader, but you have the time and you have the resources and the purpose. Now, you don't have to go make decisions based on that financial need. You get to make decisions based on what it is that you want to bring into your life. So I wish you tremendous congratulations and success on that. If you had an opportunity at this point to talk to a brand new trader, maybe getting their first evaluation, what's the biggest first key step you'd suggest for them?
Because I don't want to just say stick to your strategy. I think the strategy is something that is developed a little bit over time. I don't think even a new trader figures it out on their first eval.
Sure,
I think understanding the emotions, because and these evals are great. Instead of starting with $500, right, and you just lose $500, you understand what the risk is of 50,000, right? You can lose $2,500 in a day, and again, the more you can make it feel like it's yours, right? Like when I start an eval, that's $50,000 of my money, right? And how would I trade that? Like, how would I protect it? All those kind of things. Taking accountability for what you're actually doing is the number one thing, and not just gambling.
Sure.
Like you're not just getting in this because you see people making money doing it. You're doing this because you know that you have what it takes, or you at least have an idea that you have what it takes to be a trader. But at the same time, I just think that accountability of just like, hey, this could be potentially my livelihood. Like I've seen some people in the Apex group that got 13 payments of $10,000 a piece, $130,000, right? On one trade. Dude made, or on one payout.
Right.
Like, there's an accountability that you have to just kind of walk those stairs up. And then eventually you'll be at the top where you're like, dude, I just made $100,000 for this month, right? I'm not there yet, but one day I will be.
Well, and I think that's the beauty of this system, if you will. You know, we have a variety of traders, and let's face it, most traders are still in the beginning stage because it takes time to get past some of the, you know, the knowledge, the emotion, the discipline, all of these things. I mean, they take time. People talk about overnight success. Hey, this is an overnight success trader. There's no such thing as an overnight success trader. What we don't see is all the work that went into the process before you started to see that level of success. Once it's there, it's really great to see that those rewards are available. And at this point, knowing what you know and doing what you do, it's probably a shorter trip from here to six-figure payouts than it was getting that first evaluation to getting consistent pay.
That is a 100% fact. I truly believe that I'm right around the corner from that. Like, hopefully start of 2025 is like really we'll start seeing some really big payouts by 2025 for sure.
Well, let's catch up in a couple of months and let's see where this journey is taking you, because seeing everything that you've done and talking about that journey thus far, I truly believe that it's that chart that it starts off really, really slow, and then once it spikes straight up. And I love to kind of do that catch up and recap, and you know, let's see where things go after the first of the year, and let's do an update if that sounds good to you.
Yep, I plan on having $1 million in funding, so we're gonna see if we can get that done.
Beautiful. Well, congratulations on your continued success. Thanks for sharing some of your time and energy with us today. Keep doing what you're doing. It's obviously working, and I can't wait to hear where things go from here, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Gates.
You got it. All right, Dustin, have a great one, and we'll chat with you here in a few months.
All right, see you later. Bye.